I accidentally slept with my worst enemy before he woke up. I deleted all the security footage and ran. A few days later, everyone in our social circle was talking about it. Michael Wilson had lost his mind. He swore he'd find the person who ruined him that night and make them pay. I was terrified. I didn't dare leave my apartment. Thankfully, Michael never showed up at my door. Just when I thought I was safe, he cornered me in the parking garage, holding a familiar piece of black lace. "Sarah Davis, you had the guts to take advantage of me. Now have the guts to admit it." Day 15 of hiding at home, I finally couldn't take it anymore. I needed to get out and stop rotting indoors. I heard Michael was sick and hospitalized. After confirming the news, I ripped off my mask and sunglasses and headed downstairs. I was about to take my car out for a nice summer evening drive. But as I leaned down to fasten my seatbelt, a figure appeared in front of my car. The blue and white hospital gown stood out in the dim garage. In an instant, I recognized him. Why was Michael here? He rushed toward me like he was coming to kill me. I quickly ducked my head and prayed, "Please don't let him be looking for me." But the next second, he knocked on my window. "Sarah Davis, stop hiding." I sat up awkwardly, rolling down the window. What a coincidence. I glanced at him and started rambling. "Are you here to take a walk?" The moment the words left my mouth, I realized how stupid that sounded. Michael smirked, but his dark eyes were ice cold. "Not a coincidence. I came here specifically for you." The next second, he pulled something from his pocket and held it up to my face. Thin black lace dangled from his fingertips. It looked inappropriate. I shook my head, trying to clear the dirty thoughts from my mind. Before I could speak, he said with absolute certainty, "Sarah Davis, this is yours. Isn't it?" I tried to stay calm. "What are you talking about?" Michael stared at me, teeth clenched. "Dara Davis, you had the guts to take advantage of me. Now have the guts to admit it. That night, the person who slept with me was you." I coughed my voice. "Guilty. Do you have proof?" "Don't accuse people without evidence, Michael. My family may not be as powerful as yours, but we're still respectable. Doesn't my reputation matter?" The more I spoke, the more confident I became. My voice grew louder. After all, that night before I left, I paid the security office lady enough money to delete all the footage, even from the parking garage. Just when I thought there was no evidence, Michael said coldly, "Do you need me to show you the DNA report?" "Michael, you're a creep." My face turned red as I snatched the thin piece of fabric from him and shoved it into my bag. I was bluffing. Michael suddenly grabbed my shoulders with both hands. His voice trembled with excitement. "It really was you, Sarah Davis. Give me back my innocence." He shook me until I was dizzy, my stomach turning. "You were the one who took drugs and burst into my room." "I was drunk." "You weren't. You're the one who did something wrong. Why are you blaming me?" Michael's eyes darkened, his voice dropping. "Now you're acting all innocent. But who was it that dragged me into the bathroom and stripped my clothes off?" I looked away frantically, my voice shaking. "Just wanted to splash some water on you to sober you up." "Oh, really?" Michael suddenly reached out, his long fingers gripping my chin, forcing me to look at him to sober me up. "You didn't turn on the shower. Didn't let me get wet. Instead, you took off my pants and touched my..." "Michael." I cut him off sharply, my cheeks burning. I couldn't tell if I was embarrassed or angry. "You took those pants off yourself. And you were the one who grabbed my hand." And my voice got quieter and quieter. "Guilty." Michael leaned in, his warm breath brushing my face. "Sarah Davis, you're a liar. Didn't you say you were drunk? How do you remember all these details so clearly?" He stared at me intently, his gaze sharp, seeing right through me. "You've obviously been wanting me for a long time. You took advantage of my vulnerable state." My heart was pounding so hard, it felt like it would burst out of my chest. I pushed against him. "Stop being so full of yourself. I told you I was drunk. I wasn't thinking straight." "I thought you were." "Thought you were." I used all my strength but couldn't push Michael away. Instead, he pinned my hands down. "Thought I was what?" "Sarah Davis. Say it." Michael's voice was dangerous. I coughed unnaturally, my tone vague. "You know what my position is like. People are always trying to get close to me. I thought you were some business partner sent to please me." "Ah." Michael laughed coldly and let me go. "Miss Davis, all these years, you've really been enjoying the company of so many people." I rubbed my wrists, stubbornly responding, "Can't help it. With my family background, It's unavoidable. Michael stepped back, looking devastated. All these years I've been studying abroad. I've always kept myself pure. And the moment I come back, you. He tugged at his collar, his voice breaking. Took advantage of me. Sarah Davis. You need to give me an explanation. Michael stared at me pitifully. His eyes were red, his collar messy. He looked like an abandoned puppy. The next second, the puppy died. No, wait. Michael collapsed. I rushed out of the car. Seeing him curled up on the ground. His face pale. What's wrong with you? I was panicking. My hands shaking as I dialed emergency services. Michael spoke weakly. Don't worry. I won't die. I just need to rest for a bit. Seeing his condition, I had to take him upstairs to rest. Are you sure you don't need to go to the hospital? After refusing my suggestion, Michael quickly fell asleep. Only then did I notice he'd lost weight. There were dark circles under his eyes. He was still wearing his hospital gown. He must have snuck out of the hospital. I wanted to call my best friend to ask why Michael was hospitalized. But after dialing, I thought better of it. I swallowed my original question and made up a random topic instead. Sarah Davis, you're really obvious when you lie. My friend's lazy voice came through the phone. Are you hiding something from me? Why are these men all so smart? Just kidding, he chuckled. Usually we just gossip. It's rare for you to check on me. Tell me what's up. I'm in a good mood today. Even if I have to drop this $80,000 deal. I'll help you if it's urgent. I hesitated, then tested the waters. I have a friend. Well, she accidentally slept with her worst enemy. Someone who rejected her years ago. And they've been fighting ever since. Afterward, she ran away. Now he's found her and wants an explanation. What should she do? A meaningful "oh" came from the other end. Then a shocking sentence slipped out. You slept with Michael Wilson? I choked. My face turning red. I couldn't form a complete sentence. What are you talking about? He laughed. Why so scared? I'm just making a comparison. Your friend's enemy who rejected your friend years ago. And they've been fighting ever since. That situation is exactly like you and Michael. I tried to stay calm. Well, it is kind of similar, but you can't use that example. It's scary. Okay. He gave in. I won't use you as an example. So what do you think my friend should do now? He thought for a moment. It depends on their specific situation. They're the kind of enemies who just have a harsh way of getting each other's attention. This accident might actually bring them together. But if they're really bitter enemies, then it's trouble. He paused. His tone suddenly serious. He might be coming for revenge. After hanging up, I couldn't sleep all night. I kept dreaming of Michael with a cold face, telling his assistant at time to bankrupt the Davis family. When I woke up, I planned to check if Michael was still alive in the guest room. But when I opened the door, I saw him directing workers carrying box after box into my apartment. Michael, what are you doing? Michael signaled the workers to leave. Then walked into the apartment with his long strides. From now on, I'm living here. From now on, I'm living here. I stared at him, my brain flatlining. The morning light filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows, highlighting the sheer audacity radiating from Michael Wilson. He was wearing a fresh pair of sweatpants and a dark t-shirt, looking significantly less like a dying puppy and more like a predator marking his territory. Are you out of your mind? I finally choked out, stepping over a heavy cardboard box labeled MW Books. You can't just move into my apartment. Michael didn't even blink. He calmly walked over to my kitchen island, leaning his elbows on the marble counter. My doctor said I need a low-stress environment to recover. My house is currently undergoing renovations, and a hotel is too impersonal. Plus, he tilted his head, his dark eyes locking onto mine with a maddening glint. Who's going to take responsibility for my fragile state? You fled the scene of the crime, Sarah. This is restitution. Restitution? I sputtered, my voice jumping an octave. I called an ambulance for you. You refused it. And what do you mean, fragile state? You look fine. Appearances can be deceiving. I feel faint just standing here. To emphasize his point, he didn't move an inch. He just stared at me, looking solid as a brick wall. Get out, Michael. I'll call security. Do it, he challenged, his voice dropping into that smooth, dangerous register that always made my stomach do backflips. And when they get here, I'll explain that my fiancé and I are just having a domestic dispute. Fiancé? Or we can tell them about the security footage you bribed someone to delete. Which is technically tampering with corporate property. The police might find that interesting. He reached into his pocket and pulled out that damning piece of black lace again, twirling it around his index finger. And I'm sure the tabloids would love to know exactly how the poised, elegant Sarah Davis behaves after 3 martinis. My face burned so hot I thought it might melt off my skull. I lunged for the lace, but he snatched it out of reach, lifting it high above his head. Since he was 6'2" and I was 5'4" on a good day, it was a humiliatingly hopeless endeavor. Give it back, I hissed, grabbing his forearm. His muscles went completely rigid under my touch. The air in the kitchen instantly shifted, thickening until it was hard to breathe. Michael looked down at where my hands gripped his arm, then slowly brought his eyes up to mine. The teasing smirk vanished. You didn't run away because you were scared of me, Sarah, he said quietly. You ran because you liked it. I dropped his arm like it was on fire and took 3 massive steps back. You're delusional. Keep the boxes here for today if you want. But you're sleeping on the sofa, and you're gone by the weekend. Or I really will call the cops, dignity be damned. I turned on my heel and stormed into my bedroom, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the picture frames. I leaned against the wood, pressing the heels of my hands into my eyes. He knows. My heart was hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs. He knows I've been in love with him since I was 17. The next 3 days were a masterclass in psychological warfare. Michael didn't sleep on the sofa. He claimed his back was spasming from his mysterious illness, so he took the guest bedroom. He also took over my kitchen, my television, and seemingly all the oxygen in my apartment. I tried to ignore him. I buried myself in work, taking endless Zoom meetings for my family's PR firm from the dining table. But it was impossible to focus when Michael kept walking past my laptop wearing nothing but a towel, his wet hair dripping onto his broad shoulders, smelling like expensive cedarwood and pure sin. Could you put on a shirt? I snapped during a break between meetings on Thursday. I'm trying to draft a press release for a tech company, not run a men's anatomy class. He paused by the fridge, pouring himself a glass of water. Does my body distract you, Sarah? Your lack of basic decency distracts me. He chuckled, a low, rumbling sound. Funny. You didn't mind my lack of decency last week in the hotel. If you bring that up one more time, I'm poisoning your coffee. I'd drink it if you made it for me. He set the glass down and walked over to where I was sitting. He placed both hands on the table, leaning in close. His gaze dropped to my mouth, lingering there just a second too long before flicking back up to my eyes. Are you going to hide behind that laptop forever? I'm working. You're hiding. You haven't looked me in the eye properly since I moved in. Because every time I look at you, I remember that you're a manipulative jerk who rejected me at my senior prom, humiliated me, and then somehow twisted things so I'm the bad guy. The words erupted out of me before I could stop them. Silence crashed down on the room. I froze, horrified by my own outburst. I hadn't meant to bring up the prom. That was the unspoken rule of our rivalry. 7 years ago, I had cornered Michael in the school gardens, confessed I had a crush on him, and he had looked at me with an unreadable expression before turning around and walking away without a single word. The next day, he flew to London for college. We hadn't spoken civilly since. Whenever our paths crossed at high society events, we traded insults. He mocked my dates, I mocked his arrogance. It was safe. It was familiar. Until last week, when we both drank too much at a mutual friend's destination wedding, ended up arguing in the hallway, and somehow crashed into his hotel room in a mess of tangled limbs and desperate, biting kisses. Michael's jaw clenched. The teasing light completely died in his eyes. He pulled out the chair next to me and sat down heavily. I didn't reject you, he said, his voice grating and harsh. I let out a bitter laugh. Right. Walking away while a girl is pouring her heart out to you is just a unique form of endearment. I didn't walk away because I didn't want you, he snapped, leaning closer, his eyes flashing. I walked away because if I had stayed there for one more second, I would have kissed you. And if I kissed you, I wouldn't have been able to get on that plane. I stared at him, my breath catching in my throat. What? My father gave me an ultimatum the night before the prom, Michael said quietly, rubbing the back of his neck. Go to London, take over the European branch, or be cut off completely. I had no money, no power, nothing to offer you. You were the golden child of the Davis family. I was supposed to leave for 4 years. What was I supposed to say? Hey Sarah, I'm wildly in love with you too, wait for me to get my life together while I abandon you for half a decade? My mind spun. You could have said something. You just left me standing there like an idiot. I was 18 and terrified. By the time I realized how badly I messed up and called you the next day, you had changed your number. Michael looked up, and for the first time, I saw genuine, raw exhaustion in his eyes. And then I came back, and you hated me. Every time I tried to get close, you had your thorns out. You dated those pathetic corporate climbers just to piss me off. I did not date them to piss you off. I lied weakly. You brought a guy named Chad to my welcome home gala, Sarah. Chad wore a clip-on bow tie. I opened my mouth to defend Chad, but Michael didn't let me. And then last week happened, Michael continued, his voice dropping to a whisper. You broke into my room. You kissed me. You gave me everything I've been dreaming about for 7 goddamn years. I woke up, ready to beg you to give us a real chance, and you were gone. Erased the tapes. Ran away like I was a nightmare you were trying to forget. Tears pricked the corners of my eyes. I panicked. I thought you were just using me because we were drunk. I thought you'd wake up and laugh at me. Michael reached out, his long fingers gently wrapping around my wrist. The touch was so tender it made my chest ache. Sarah. The reason I was in the hospital wasn't just exhaustion. It was a severe panic attack. I spent 4 days tearing the city apart trying to find you, thinking I'd lost you again. When I couldn't find you, my body just shut down. A tear slipped down my cheek, dropping onto the keyboard of my laptop. You had a panic attack? Over me? I would burn this whole city down for you, he said, without a trace of irony. He reached up, his thumb brushing the tear from my cheek. I moved my boxes in here because I am done playing games. I am done being your enemy. If you want me to leave, look me in the eye right now, tell me you feel absolutely nothing for me, and I will walk out that door and never bother you again. He sat back, his dark eyes locked onto mine. He was giving me an out. The perfect, clean escape I had wanted 3 days ago. I looked at his face. At the dark circles under his eyes that were only just starting to fade. At the stubborn set of his jaw. At the man who had been the villain in my head for 7 years, only because it was easier than admitting he was the only one who held my heart. You're an idiot, I whispered, my voice trembling. I know. And you're bossy. And arrogant. I can work on that. And you still have my underwear in your pocket. A slow, devastating smile spread across Michael's face. Actually, I framed it. It's in the guest room. You did not. I gasped, half laughing, half sobbing as I shoved his shoulder. Before I could pull my hand back, Michael caught my waist, pulling me effortlessly out of my chair and onto his lap. The laptop screen went dark as we knocked the table. My hands instinctively flew to his broad shoulders to steady myself. Don't run away this time, he murmured, his hands sliding up my back, pulling me flush against his chest. I'm out of breath just sitting here, I whispered back, my heart pounding so hard I was sure he could feel it. Good. When his lips finally met mine, it wasn't the frantic, drunken desperation of the hotel room. It was slow. Intentional. It was a kiss that held 7 years of suppressed longing, of bitter arguments that were actually just cries for attention, of missed connections and wasted time. I melted into him, my fingers tangling in his dark hair. All the anxiety, the fear, the ridiculous rivalry, it all evaporated, leaving only this consuming, terrifying warmth. He kissed me until my mind was entirely blank, his hands mapping my spine, pulling me closer until there was no space left between us. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing heavily, our foreheads resting against each other. So, Michael said softly, his thumbs tracing circles on my hips. Does this mean I don't have to sleep in the guest room anymore? I let out a breathless laugh, burying my face in the crook of his neck. You're infuriating. I'm yours, he corrected, pressing a kiss to the top of my head. Always have been. 2 weeks later. The transition from worst enemies to insufferably domestic couple gave our social circle collective whiplash. The first time we walked into a high society charity gala hand in hand, you could have heard a pin drop in the ballroom. My best friend, Leo, the one I had called in a panic, spit his champagne back into his glass when he saw us. You have got to be kidding me, Leo said as we approached his table. He looked from me to Michael, then back to me. I told you that if he was coming for revenge, you were in trouble. This is not the trouble I pictured. Michael smirked, slipping his arm comfortably around my waist. Sorry to disappoint, Leo. The only thing I'm bankrupting is Sarah's willpower to stay mad at me. I elbowed him hard in the ribs, blushing furiously. Shut up. I'm just saying, Michael murmured, leaning down to kiss my cheek in front of half the city's elite. It's a very nice arrangement. Later that evening, the band started playing a slow jazz tune. Michael pulled me onto the dance floor. The lights of the chandelier caught the gold flecks in his dark eyes as he looked down at me. We moved perfectly in sync, a stark contrast to the years we spent stepping on each other's toes. What are you smiling about? He asked, his hand resting warmly against my lower back. I was just thinking about the security lady at the hotel, I admitted, a giggle escaping me. I paid her $1,000 to delete that tape. Michael's eyebrows raised. Did you now? Yep. Total waste of money. Michael let out a low, wicked laugh, pulling me flush against his chest so no one else could hear him. Not a total waste, sweetheart. What do you mean? He leaned down, his lips brushing the shell of my ear, sending a shiver down my spine. Who do you think paid her $10,000 to recover the footage and send it directly to my personal server? I stopped dancing entirely, staring at him in sheer, absolute shock. Michael Wilson. You did not. I am a businessman, Sarah, he said, a thoroughly unapologetic grin on his face as he swept me back into the rhythm of the dance. I always secure my assets. You are a menace. I gasped, trying to look angry but utterly failing as a huge smile broke across my face. I'm your menace, he whispered, dipping his head to capture my lips in a kiss that made the rest of the crowded ballroom fade entirely to black. And as I kissed my worst enemy back, surrounded by the people who thought we'd hate each other forever, I realized something important. I was never running away again.